The arrival. The vastness of space stretched infinitely in every direction, a tapestry of stars glimmering against the dark. Among them, Terra 1's space station hung like a jewel, a hub of commerce and civilization amidst the chaos of the cosmos. It was here that Alex Thorne found himself, a technician living a quiet life, far from the notorious reputation he once held as Zorak the Devastator. His days now consisted of fixing malfunctioning systems and managing the mundane tasks that came with maintaining a bustling space station. As he tightened the last bolt on a faulty life support panel, Alex wiped the sweat from his brow, leaving a streak of grease across his forehead. Just another day, he muttered to himself, glancing around the corridor for signs of trouble. Old habits died hard, and despite his attempt at normalcy, the instincts of a former bounty hunter lingered in his mind, always alert for danger. Suddenly, a commotion at the end of the hall caught his attention. 2 security officers were escorting a striking alien woman whose blue skin shimmered under the harsh lights of the station. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, framing a face that was both beautiful and desperate. Violet eyes darted nervously as she pleaded, "Please, I mean no harm. I seek only refuge in honest work." Alex felt a pang of sympathy for her. The officers, however, seemed indifferent to her plight. "Keep moving, grey monkey," one of them sneered. The taller officer shoved her forward, showing no compassion. But as they passed Alex, her gaze locked onto his, and he saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. Before he could think better of it, Alex called out, "Wait." The officers halted, their expressions wary. "What's going on here?" he asked, trying to maintain a casual tone. "None of your business, human," the taller officer replied, his voice dripping with disdain. Alex bristled at the insult, but pressed on. "I couldn't help but overhear. If she's looking for work, I could use some help around my quarters. I've been meaning to hire a housekeeper." The officers exchanged glances, momentarily distracted by the unexpected turn of events. "She's undocumented," the shorter one explained, crossing his arms defiantly. "No papers, no ID. Protocol says we detain her." "I'll vouch for her," Alex insisted, feeling a strange sense of responsibility. "Fill out whatever forms you need. I'll take full responsibility." There was a moment of hesitation before the officers relented, clearly annoyed, but recognizing Alex's stubbornness. "Fine, your problem now. But if there's any trouble, we'll hold you accountable." As the officers departed, the woman turned to Alex, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you, kind sir. I am Mithil. I promise to work hard and not be a burden." "Alex," he replied gruffly. "Come on, I'll show you to my quarters." As they walked, Alex studied Mithil out of the corner of his eye. There was something about her story that felt off. Her refined speech and graceful movements didn't match the desperation of someone fleeing for their life. He pushed the thought aside. He had his own secrets to keep. Upon reaching his sparse living space, Mithil took in the surroundings with a look of thinly veiled disdain. "Oh my, you certainly do need help with housekeeping," she remarked, raising an eyebrow at the half-eaten nutrition bar growing mold on his nightstand. "It's not that bad," Alex muttered defensively. Mithil arched an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "There is a half-eaten nutrition bar growing mold on your nightstand," she deadpanned. Okay, Alex conceded, realizing he needed her help more than he had anticipated. "I've been meaning to clean that up." "Where do you keep your cleaning supplies?" she asked, pinching the bridge of her nose in exasperation. Alex blinked. I'm not sure I have any." "Wonderful," Mithil replied dryly. "I don't suppose this station has a supply depot where we could procure the necessary items." "Yeah, there's a commissary on level 3, but look, you don't have to start right this second. Why don't you tell me a bit more about yourself first? Where are you from? How did you end up here?" A flicker of unease crossed Mithil's face before she composed herself. "Oh, you know how it is. Political unrest, economic instability. I simply wished for a fresh start somewhere new." Alex's instincts were pinging loudly. The way she spoke hinted at deeper secrets, but he chose not to press for now. Right, well, make yourself at home. I've got to finish my shift, but I'll be back in a few hours. Try not to organize me out of house and home while I'm gone. As he headed for the door, Mithil called after him, Alex, thank you again. Truly. He grunted in acknowledgement, his mind racing with questions about his mysterious new roommate. The rest of his shift passed in a blur of routine maintenance and nagging thoughts about Mithil. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just gotten tangled up in something far more complicated than he understood. When he finally clocked out and returned to his quarters, he half expected to find the place ransacked, but instead, he walked into a sparkling clean living space that smelled faintly of citrus. Mithil stood in the center of the room, hands on her hips, looking pleased with herself. How did you? Alex trailed off, taking in the transformation. I borrowed a few things from your neighbors, she explained nonchalantly. They were quite accommodating once I explained the situation. I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of preparing a meal as well. You had some rather sad-looking ration packs in your cupboard, so I improvised. Alex's stomach growled at the mention of food. When was the last time he'd eaten a real meal? You didn't have to do all this. It's the least I could do to repay your kindness. Mithil gestured to the small table where 2 plates sat steaming. Please, sit. As they ate, Alex couldn't help but notice Mithil's impeccable table manners. The way she delicately wielded her utensils spoke of a refined upbringing, not the life of hardship she described. This is incredible, he said between bites. Where did you learn to cook like this? A shadow passed over Mithil's face. Oh, here and there. One picks up skills when one must fend for oneself. Alex decided to probe a bit further. So you mentioned political unrest earlier. What can you tell me about the current situation in your home system? Mithil's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. Oh, you know how these things go. Corrupt officials, power-hungry warlords, the usual nonsense. I try not to dwell on such unpleasantness. Her casual dismissal of complex galactic politics raised his suspicions further, but before he could press the issue, a priority alert chimed on his comm unit. Damn, he muttered. Looks like there's some kind of disturbance in the docking bay. I've got to check it out. Mithil's eyes widened with what looked like fear. Is that common? Security issues, I mean. Alex shrugged as he stood. Not really. Probably just some drunk traders getting rowdy. I wouldn't worry about it. He hesitated at the door. You'll be okay here by yourself. Mithil forced a smile. Of course. I'll just finish cleaning up. Be careful out there. As Alex jogged towards the docking bay, his instincts screamed that something was off. The corridor leading to the bay was eerily quiet. He slowed his pace, years of training kicking in as he hugged the wall and moved silently. The sound of raised voices reached him as he neared the entrance. Peering around the corner, Alex felt his blood run cold. A group of 5 heavily armed mercenaries were threatening the dockworkers, waving around a holo image that looked suspiciously like Mithil. We know she came through here. A burly Cronin growled, his blue skin glistening under the station lights. Where is she? The terrified worker shook his head. I don't know who you're talking about. Lots of people come through here. The Cronin at the back snarled, wrong answer, and sent the man sprawling with a brutal shove. Without conscious thought, Alex sprang into action. He vaulted over a stack of crates, using the momentum to drive his feet into the Cronin's chest. As the alien staggered back, Alex relieved him of his weapon and fired 2 quick stun blasts at the nearest mercenaries. The remaining 2 opened fire, but Alex was already moving. He dove behind a cargo loader, the smell of ozone filling the air as energy bolts sizzled past. In one fluid motion, he popped up from cover and dropped both assailants with pinpoint headshots. The entire fight lasted less than 10 seconds. As the echoes of weapons fire faded, Alex became aware of the shocked stares of the dockworkers. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he said, you should probably call security. Let them know there was an attempted assault by these gentlemen. I'll just be going now." He beat a hasty retreat, his mind racing. Those weren't ordinary thugs. They were professional hunters, and they were after Mithil. When Alex burst back into his quarters, he found Mithil pacing nervously. Her eyes widened at his disheveled appearance. "What happened? Are you all right?" Alex fixed her with a hard stare. "Cut the act. Who are you really, and why are there mercenaries tearing apart the station looking for you?" Mithil's shoulders slumped in defeat. "I suppose there's no point in further deception. The truth is..." Before she could finish, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A computerized voice announced, "Attention all personnel. Unauthorized vessels detected on approach vector. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Alex and Mithil locked eyes, a moment of understanding passing between them. Whatever secrets they both held, they were in this together now. "We need to move," Alex said grimly. "I've got a feeling those mercenaries were just the welcoming party." As they raced out of the room, neither of them noticed the small tracking device attached to Mithil's clothing, blinking steadily and broadcasting their location to parties unknown. The hunt was on. Secrets unraveled. The corridors of Terra 1's space station were filled with chaos as alarms blared, echoing off the metal walls like a sinister warning. Alex sprinted down the narrow passage, with Mithil close behind him, her breath coming in short gasps. He could feel the tension in the air, a palpable mix of fear and urgency that pushed him forward. "We need to get to the command center," he shouted over the din, his instincts urging him to lead the way and protect his enigmatic new companion. As they navigated through the throngs of panicked civilians, Alex's mind raced. What had he stumbled into? Mithil was no ordinary alien refugee. There was a reason those mercenaries were hunting her, and it was clear that she had secrets that could be dangerous for both of them. But now was not the time for questions. They needed to find safety first. They rounded a corner, skidding to a halt as a group of armed personnel rushed past them, their expressions grim. Alex recognized one of them as Lieutenant Grax, a seasoned officer known for his tactical acumen. "Grax," he called out, waving his arm to catch the lieutenant's attention. The officer stopped, his eyes widening in recognition. "Alex? What the hell is going on? We've got reports of intruders in multiple sectors, and we're scrambling to contain them." "I know. I think they're after Mithil," Alex replied, his voice rising above the cacophony. Grax's eyes darted to Mithil, who stood slightly behind Alex, her hands trembling. "Is that true?" Grax asked, his tone shifting to one of concern. Mithil nodded, her violet eyes wide with fear. "Please," he said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm not who they think I am." "Let's move," Grax ordered, his demeanor shifting to one of authority. "We can talk in the command center. We need to get a grip on this situation before it spirals out of control." He gestured for them to follow him, leading them through a series of twisting passages. As they hurried along, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He felt the weight of the small tracking device attached to Mithil's clothing, a device that had been silently broadcasting their location. Who had planted it? And what were their intentions? The trio reached the command center, a hub of frantic activity. Officers rushed around, barking orders and coordinating defenses. Large screens displayed tactical maps of the station, marking hotspots where clashes had already erupted. The air was thick with tension, and the faint smell of burnt ozone lingered, a reminder of the recent firefights. "Status report," Grax demanded, stepping up to a console where a young officer was frantically typing commands. The officer looked up, clearly overwhelmed. "We've got unauthorized vessels in the docking base, sir. Multiple armed intruders are engaged with security forces. We're trying to lock down sectors, but communications are down in several areas." "Lock down the entire station," Grax commanded, his voice steady and resolute. "We can't let them breach any more areas. What about evacuation protocols?" "Not yet, sir," The docking bay is compromised, and we can't guarantee safe passage." The officer's voice trembled, betraying his anxiety. Grax turned to Alex and Mithil, a grim look on his face. "We need to find out what's happening. If they're after her, we have to know why." "Mithil, who are you really?" Mithil took a deep breath, steeling herself as she prepared to divulge her secrets. "I come from the planet Alcania. She hesitated, looking around the command center as if afraid someone might overhear. "I was the daughter of a political leader, but things changed after my father was assassinated by a rival faction. I became a target myself." Alex's heart sank. He had suspected as much. The beauty, the desperation, it all made sense now. "So you're saying you're a princess?" Mithil nodded slowly. "I'm not proud of it. I was forced to flee, to escape the turmoil that engulfed my home. I sought refuge here, thinking I could start anew. But now they've come for me." Her voice wavered, and Alex could see the fear in her eyes. "We can't let them find you," Alex said, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had pulled her out of the fire, but now they were both trapped. Grax nodded in agreement, his expression serious. "If they're after you because of your lineage, they'll stop at nothing to reclaim you. We need to come up with a plan. Alex, you have experience in dealing with these kinds of situations. What do you suggest?" Alex thought quickly. "We need to fortify this command center. If they're looking for her, they'll likely come here first. We can set traps and prepare for an ambush." "Agreed," Grax said, turning to his team. "Prepare barricades and establish defenses. Keep the perimeter secure. We're not letting these intruders get any closer." As the officers scrambled to follow orders, Alex turned back to Mithil. "What other resources do you have? Do you know of anyone who could help us?" Mithil hesitated. "There are contacts I had before I left Alcania, but they are few and far between. Most are either in hiding or have been killed." "Then we'll make do with what we have here," Alex said, determination settling in. "We'll find a way to protect you and turn the tables on these hunters, but we need to be quick." Just then, the doors to the command center slammed open, and a group of heavily armed soldiers stormed in, their uniforms emblazoned with the insignia of the core empire, the very same faction that had sought to take Mithil back. "Secure the area," one of them shouted. "We've got a princess to reclaim." Without a moment's hesitation, Alex sprang into action, grabbing a nearby weapon from a fallen officer and positioning himself in front of Mithil. Grax barked orders, directing his team to take cover and return fire. The room erupted into chaos as blaster bolts lit up the space, illuminating the determination etched on every face. Alex ducked behind a console, heart racing. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through him as he shot back at the intruders. The command center was filled with the sounds of blaster fire and the shouts of officers working to repel the assault. He glanced back at Mithil, who was crouched low, fear etched across her features. "Stay down," he yelled, trying to keep her safe as he peeked around the console to assess the situation. Grax was coordinating the defense, barking orders while firing his weapon with precision. Mithil caught Alex's eye, her expression one of resolve. "I can help. I know the layout of this station. I can guide you to places they wouldn't expect us to go." "No," Alex snapped, instinctively protective. "You need to stay hidden." "But if they find me here, it'll be over," she argued. "You need to trust me. I know how to navigate the station. Let me help." Alex hesitated, torn between his protective instincts and the urgency of their situation. "Fine," he relented, "but you stay close to me at all times." Mithil nodded, determination flashing in her violet eyes. With a shared look of understanding, they both prepared to face the imminent threat together. "On my mark," Grax shouted, rallying the remaining officers. "We'll push them back. Move out." As the officers executed their plan, Alex and Mithil moved to a nearby corridor, taking advantage of the confusion. They needed to flank the intruders and find a way to cut off their escape. Alex felt Mithil's presence beside him, her determination reinforcing his resolve. They navigated through the winding halls, dodging blaster fire as they moved. The sound of chaos grew louder, but Alex focused on the mission. "Where do we go?" he asked Mithil, his voice low. "Down to the cargo hold," she said, her eyes scanning the maps in her mind. "If we can secure it, we'll have a strong position." "Let's move," Alex urged, pushing through the door into the next corridor. They encountered a few officers fighting off intruders, and without hesitation, Alex engaged, taking out one of the attackers with swift precision. Mithil followed, surprisingly agile as she dodged and weaved through the chaos, keeping close to Alex. As they descended into the cargo hold, the atmosphere shifted. The air was thick with the scent of metal and machinery, and the dim lights flickered ominously. They could hear the sounds of footsteps and distant shouts echoing in the distance. "Here," Mithil pointed to a control panel. "If we can lock this door, we'll trap them in the hold." Alex nodded, moving swiftly to the panel. "Cover me," he instructed, focusing on the buttons. He could feel his heart racing, sweat trickling down his brow as he worked quickly. Mithil stood guard, eyes wide with anticipation. "Hurry, Alex." With a final beep, the door slid shut, and Alex activated the security lock. The sounds of fighting grew muffled, but he knew this was only a temporary measure. "We need to find a way to secure this area better," he said, scanning the hold for anything they could use. "Over there." Mithil pointed to a stack of crates. "We can use those to barricade the door." They rushed to the crates, quickly moving them into place as Alex's mind raced. He could hear the muffled shouts of the core soldiers outside, their frustration palpable. "Let's hope this holds long enough for us to think," Alex said, breathing heavily as they finished their makeshift barricade. Mithil glanced at him, her expression serious. "Alex, I need to tell you something important. I'm not just running from them because of my past. There's something else." "What do you mean?" Alex asked, confused. "I have something they want," Mithil admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Something my father entrusted to me before he was killed. A hidden artifact that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. That's why they're hunting me." Alex's eyes widened in realization. The stakes were higher than he had thought. "What kind of artifact?" Mithil hesitated, her gaze distant. "It's a device that can amplify energy sources, a technology that could change the course of entire star systems. In the wrong hands, it could lead to mass destruction." Understanding flooded through Alex. They were no longer just protecting a refugee. They were safeguarding a key to potentially catastrophic power. "Then we need to make sure they don't get it," he said firmly. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the hold as one of the core soldiers attempted to breach the barricade. "They're coming," Mithil shouted, her eyes wide with fear. "Get ready," Alex said, drawing a weapon and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. "We'll fight our way out if we have to." The door rattled violently, and Alex braced himself, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had never anticipated that a simple act of kindness would lead him to this moment, defending a princess and the fate of the galaxy. But he knew one thing. He would not let them take her. Not now, not ever. As the door burst open, the dim light of the cargo hold illuminated the fierce determination in Alex's eyes. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, and he would protect Mithil at all costs. The battle within. The cargo hold erupted into chaos as the door was flung open, revealing a trio of core soldiers, their armor gleaming ominously under the flickering lights. Blaster fire erupted, sending sparks flying as Alex instinctively dove for cover, pulling Mithil down with him. The sound of energy bolts sizzling through the air was deafening, but his focus remained razor-sharp. "Get behind the crates," Alex shouted, pulling Mithil to safety as he fired back at the intruders. The soldiers advanced with ruthless efficiency, their movements calculated and precise. It was clear they were trained professionals, not mere thugs. "Why won't they just back off?" Mithil gasped, fear evident in her voice as she crouched low, trying to catch her breath. "They want you," And they won't stop until they get what they came for, Alex replied, scanning the room for tactical advantages. They were outnumbered, and every second counted. We need to create a diversion. Mithil nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. There's a supply locker over there, she pointed, her voice steadying as she spotted a potential ally in their desperate situation. If we can access it, we might find something to help us. Good thinking, Alex said, his mind racing with possibilities. You stay low and keep an eye on them. I'll cover you. As Mithil maneuvered through the shadows, Alex took a deep breath and prepared to draw the attention of their attackers. He stood up and fired a few shots, targeting the floor near the soldiers' feet to create a distraction. Hey, over here, he shouted, his voice echoing in the confined space. The soldiers turned, their focus shifting toward Alex. He ducked back behind the crates, narrowly avoiding the return fire as blaster bolts ricocheted off the metal walls. Now, Mithil, go, he urged. Mithil darted toward the supply locker, her movements quick and agile. She reached the locker and began to input the access code. Alex could see the sweat glistening on her forehead as she concentrated, her fingers dancing across the keypad. Come on, he muttered, firing again to keep the soldiers at bay. He could see them regrouping, forming a tighter formation as they prepared to advance. Time was running out. With a soft beep, the supply locker clicked open, and Mithil's eyes lit up. I got it, she exclaimed, rummaging through the contents. There are stun grenades and some energy packs in here. Perfect, Alex replied, relief flooding through him. Toss me a grenade and keep an eye on the door. Mithil quickly grabbed a stun grenade and hurled it to Alex. He caught it deftly, his heart pounding in his chest as he moved to the edge of their barricade. With a quick glance back at Mithil, he activated the grenade and tossed it into the fray, shouting, "Cover your ears." The grenade detonated with a blinding flash and a deafening bang, temporarily disorienting the core soldiers. Alex seized the opportunity, leaping from behind the crates and unleashing a barrage of fire, hitting one soldier squarely in the chest. The figure crumpled to the ground, and Alex felt a surge of adrenaline as he pressed his advantage. Mithil, now, he yelled, gesturing for her to follow his lead. Mithil, emboldened by his confidence, joined him in the assault. Together, they pushed forward, maneuvering between the crates and taking down another soldier who had regained his composure. With every shot, Alex felt the thrill of combat coursing through him, a reminder of his past life as Zorak the Devastator, the bounty hunter who thrived in chaos. But this wasn't just about survival. This was personal. He had made a promise to protect Mithil, and he intended to keep it. As the last core soldier fell, silence enveloped the cargo hold, save for the distant hum of the station's machinery. Alex glanced at Mithil, who was breathing heavily but looked exhilarated. We did it, she said, a mix of disbelief and triumph in her voice. Don't celebrate yet, Alex cautioned, scanning the room for any more threats. We need to secure the area and figure out our next move. They began to catch their breath, the adrenaline slowly fading, but the weight of the situation pressed down heavily. What do we do now? Mithil asked, her brow furrowed in thought. We can't stay here, Alex replied, looking towards the exit. They'll send more soldiers, and we can't afford to be cornered again. We need to find a way to disable the tracking device on you. If they know where you are, they'll keep coming. Right, Mithil said, determination rising within her. But how do we do that? I don't have the equipment or knowledge for that kind of tech. Alex considered their options. We need to access the main computer core of the station. If we can get there, I can hack into the system and disable the tracking signal. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Mithil nodded, her resolve hardening. Let's go then. I'll follow your lead. They carefully made their way back through the corridors, moving silently to avoid detection. Alex felt the weight of his weapon in his hands, a reassuring reminder of his training. He had been in life-and-death situations before, but this felt different. He was fighting not just for survival, but for someone he had only just met. A connection forged in the fires of chaos. As they approached the main access point, a large, reinforced door loomed ahead. Alex glanced at Mithil, her face illuminated by the faint lights of the corridor. "Are you ready for this?" "I am," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We have to do this together." With a nod of agreement, Alex stepped forward and began to bypass the lock. His fingers flew across the interface, inputting codes he had memorized during his years as a technician. The door clicked open, revealing a darkened room filled with humming servers and blinking lights. "Stay alert," Alex warned as they entered, scanning the area for any signs of trouble. "We don't know what we're walking into." Mithil nodded, her eyes wide as she took in the technology surrounding them. "This is incredible. So much information stored here." "Yeah, well, it could be a double-edged sword," Alex replied, moving to the main terminal. "If we trigger any alarms, it could bring reinforcements faster than we can react." He connected his device to the terminal and began the hacking process. Lines of code cascaded across the screen, illuminating the room with an eerie glow. Come on," he muttered under his breath, fingers tapping rapidly. Mithil stood guard, her heart pounding as she listened for any signs of approaching danger. "How long will this take?" she asked, her anxiety creeping back. "Just a few more seconds," Alex replied, his focus unwavering. "I just need to override the security protocols." Suddenly, the screen flashed a warning. "Unauthorized access detected." Alarms blared throughout the room, red lights flashing wildly. "Mithil, I need you to help me hold this door," Alex shouted, the sound of heavy footsteps approaching from the corridor. Without hesitation, Mithil rushed to the door, bracing herself against it as Alex continued to type furiously. "Hurry," she yelled, her heart racing. The door rattled violently, the sounds of boots pounding closer. Alex's mind raced as he worked. He could feel the pressure mounting. Time was not on their side. "Almost there," he shouted, pushing himself to work faster. With one final keystroke, the screen flashed green, and a message appeared. "Tracking signal disabled." "Yes," Alex exclaimed, relief flooding through him. But it was short-lived. The door bucked against Mithil's weight, and she struggled to keep it closed. "Let's move," Alex shouted, grabbing Mithil's arm and pulling her away from the door just as it burst open. A pair of core soldiers charged into the room, blasters raised and ready. In a split second, Alex reacted, firing a shot that struck one of the soldiers in the shoulder. The intruder stumbled back, but the other soldier retaliated, aiming directly at Mithil. "No," Alex shouted, pushing her behind him as he fired again, narrowly missing the second soldier but forcing him to take cover. "We need to get out of here." "Back this way," Mithil urged, leading Alex toward another exit. They dashed through a side corridor, adrenaline propelling them forward as the sound of blaster fire faded behind them. They emerged into a maintenance tunnel, the dim lights casting long shadows on the walls. Alex leaned against the cool metal, trying to catch his breath. "We need to find a way to regroup and figure out our next move." Mithil nodded, her expression a mixture of determination and fear. "We can't let them catch us again. If they do, I don't know what they'll do to me." "We won't let that happen," Alex said firmly, meeting her gaze. "But we need to stick together and stay one step ahead of them. I won't let them take you." With a newfound sense of purpose, they began moving again, weaving through the maintenance tunnels. As they navigated the twisting paths, Mithil looked over at Alex. "What if they find us again? What if we can't escape?" "We will escape," he reassured her, his voice steady. "You've already shown strength and resilience. We'll figure this out together. Besides, I've dealt with worse odds before." "Really?" Mithil asked, genuine curiosity shining in her eyes. "What was it like, being a bounty hunter?" Alex hesitated for a moment, memories flooding back. "It was chaotic, dangerous. I had to trust my instincts and be prepared for anything. but I had my reasons for doing it, just like you have yours for running. Mithil sighed, a look of understanding crossing her face. I suppose we're not so different after all. Exactly, he replied, grateful for her understanding. But now let's focus on getting out of this alive. We'll find a way to turn the tables on those core soldiers. As they moved deeper into the maintenance tunnels, the tension hung thick in the air, but their shared purpose ignited a spark of hope. Together, they would confront the darkness that loomed ahead, ready to fight for their freedom and each other's safety. Unbeknownst to them, the pursuit was far from over. The core soldiers, relentless and determined, were closing in, driven by a singular goal: to reclaim the princess and eliminate any threats standing in their way. And as Alex and Mithil forged ahead, the true battle, one of not just survival, but of loyalty, trust, and the fight for a better future, was just beginning. The escape plan. As they navigated the dimly lit maintenance tunnels of Terra 1 space station, Alex's mind whirled with plans and contingencies. Each step felt like a calculated risk, every corner turned a potential ambush. Yet with Mithil by his side, a quiet determination settled within him. They were in this together, bound by circumstances that had thrust them into the heart of conflict. "Do you know any escape routes?" Alex asked, keeping his voice low as they moved cautiously through the narrow passage. The walls were cold metal, and the faint hum of machinery pulsed around them, a constant reminder of the station's heartbeat. "Yes," Mithil replied, glancing over her shoulder nervously. "There's a service exit on the lower level that leads to the maintenance bays. If we can reach it, we can get to a shuttle before they realize what's happening." "Good thinking," Alex said, feeling a surge of hope. "Let's make our way down. How far is it?" "Not far, but we'll need to navigate through the cargo area first," she explained, her eyes scanning the shadows for any signs of danger. "If we take the back tunnels, we can avoid the main corridors." "Lead the way," Alex urged, falling into step behind her. The air felt thick with tension, but Mithil's confidence helped steady his resolve. He couldn't help but admire her tenacity. She was no ordinary princess. She had the spirit of a survivor, and he felt a growing respect for her. As they progressed deeper into the station's underbelly, they passed through a series of cramped passages and maintenance rooms, their only light coming from flickering overhead panels. Occasionally, the distant sounds of blaster fire echoed through the halls, a reminder of the chaos that raged above them. "What's your plan once we reach the shuttle?" Mithil asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We'll need to find a way to secure it and figure out a flight path out of here," Alex replied, his mind racing. "Ideally, we'd head to the nearest Federation outpost. They might have resources to help us and can provide protection." Mithil nodded, though a flicker of worry crossed her face. "What if they follow us? They'll know we're trying to escape." "Then we'll have to outsmart them," Alex said, determination sharpening his features. "I've done it before, and we'll do it again. We just need to stay one step ahead." Just then, they reached a junction where the dimly lit tunnel split into two paths. Mithil hesitated, glancing between them. "The service exit is to the right, but there's an access shaft to the left that leads to the cargo area. It might be quicker if we go that way." "Let's do it," Alex agreed, following her lead as they turned left. They moved cautiously, the air growing cooler and more still as they approached the cargo hold. "Remember, if we run into any core soldiers, we can't afford to engage unless it's absolutely necessary," Alex cautioned, his instincts on high alert. "Our priority is to escape." Mithil nodded, her expression resolute. "I understand. We have to keep moving." As they crept toward the cargo area, they could hear the faint sounds of voices drifting through the air, a mix of the core soldiers discussing their strategy, their determination palpable. The urgency of their mission fueled Alex's resolve. They couldn't afford to be caught now. They finally reached the edge of the cargo area, peering cautiously around the corner. The space was vast, filled with containers stacked high and large crates scattered about. In the center, a group of core soldiers huddled, their voices low as they examined holodisplays, likely plotting their next move. Alex turned to Mithil, his eyes narrowing in thought. If we can create a distraction, we might be able to slip past them unnoticed. What do you have in mind? Mithil asked, her brow furrowing. See that control panel over there? Alex pointed to a terminal across the cargo area, its screen glowing faintly. If I can access it, I might be able to trigger an alarm on the opposite side of the room. It'll draw their attention and give us the opening we need. That could work, Mithil agreed, her eyes scanning the room for potential threats. But we have to be quick. Stay close, Alex instructed, moving stealthily toward the control panel. He felt a rush of adrenaline as he approached, aware of the core soldiers just a few paces away. He could hear snippets of their conversation, discussing their failed attempts to locate Mithil, and grow increasingly frustrated. With steady hands, Alex reached the panel and began working on it, his fingers flying over the controls. Just a moment, he muttered under his breath, heart racing. He had to act fast. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the cargo area, causing the soldiers to whip around, their blasters raised. What was that? One of them barked, tension thickening the air. Alex seized the moment, quickly triggering the alarm on the terminal. The sound blared throughout the cargo area, and red lights began to flash. Now, he shouted to Mithil. They dashed away from the control panel, weaving through the maze of crates as the core soldiers turned their attention toward the commotion. Check it out, one of them shouted, moving to investigate the source of the noise. Alex and Mithil took advantage of the distraction, sprinting toward the service exit on the far side of the cargo hold. They moved swiftly, hearts pounding as they ducked behind crates to avoid detection. The alarm blared on, filling the air with chaos and confusion. Almost there, Alex urged, pointing to the door ahead. Just a few more steps, and they would be free. But just as they reached the exit, they heard the unmistakable sound of boots pounding against the metal floor behind them. They're coming, Mithil exclaimed, panic rising in her voice. Go, go, Alex shouted, pushing the door open and ushering her through. They stumbled into a narrow hallway, the cool air refreshing against their flushed faces. Where to now? Mithil asked, glancing back nervously. Down this corridor, then we'll take a left, Alex instructed, leading the way. The adrenaline coursed through him, sharpening his senses as they raced through the darkened passages. They emerged into a larger corridor, and Alex could see the entrance to the maintenance bays in the distance. We're almost there, he said, pushing himself to move faster, just a little further. But as they rounded the corner, they were met with a wall of core soldiers blocking their path, weapons drawn. Stop right there, one of them shouted, and Alex's heart sank. Back. We need to retreat, Mithil urged, panic lacing her voice. Not yet, Alex said, determination hardening his features. He turned to Mithil, his mind racing for a plan. We'll have to create another distraction. If we can split their forces, we might have a chance. But how? Mithil asked, her eyes wide with fear. There's a maintenance access panel, Alex replied, pointing to a nearby hatch. If I can get it open, we can use it to navigate around them. You distract them while I do it. Mithil hesitated, glancing back at the soldiers who were advancing cautiously. I don't know if I can. Trust me, Alex urged, meeting her gaze with an intensity that conveyed his belief in her. You're stronger than you think. If you draw their attention, I can slip past them. We'll find a way to the maintenance bay together. With a deep breath, Mithil nodded, steeling herself for the task ahead. Okay, I'll do it. Just be careful. I always am, Alex replied with a wry smile, though inside he felt the weight of uncertainty. As the soldiers drew closer, Mithil took a step forward, raising her hands to catch their attention. You'll never catch me, she shouted defiantly, her voice ringing with conviction. Don't let her escape. One of the soldiers yelled, and they turned their weapons toward her, ready to fire. Now, Alex shouted, diving toward the maintenance panel and wrenching it open. He quickly slipped inside, the tight space offering a momentary refuge as he crawled through the darkened tunnel. From his vantage point, he could hear the chaos outside. Mithil's voice mingled with the shouts of the soldiers as they pursued her. He felt a pang of concern for her safety, but knew she was capable. She had proven that time and again. Navigating through the cramped space, Alex made his way around the soldiers, the tunnel twisting and turning until he emerged into the maintenance bay, the familiar sights and sounds grounding him. He paused for a moment, catching his breath and assessing the area. The maintenance bay was a hive of activity, with various ships docked and personnel rushing around, unaware of the danger that lurked beyond the walls. He needed to find a shuttle quickly, but first he had to ensure Mithil made it through safely. Peering through the door, Alex watched as Mithil darted past the soldiers, her agility impressive as she evaded their grasp. "Come on, Mithil," he whispered, urging her onward. Finally, she broke free, racing toward the maintenance bay, just as Alex stepped out to meet her. "You made it," he exclaimed, relief flooding through him. "I didn't think I would," she said breathlessly, her expression a mix of exhilaration and fear. "What now?" "Let's find a shuttle," Alex replied, scanning the bay for options. "We'll need something fast." He led the way through the bustling area, his eyes darting from one ship to another. The sleek, small vessels would be ideal for their escape, but he needed to be cautious. "Keep an eye out for any soldiers," he instructed. Just then, a familiar voice rang out from behind them. "There they are, get them." Alex's heart raced as he turned to see the core soldiers closing in, their faces twisted in determination. "This way," he shouted, grabbing Mithil's arm and sprinting toward the nearest shuttle. They reached a small, unoccupied craft, its doors open and inviting. "Get in," Alex urged, helping Mithil inside before sliding into the pilot's seat. He quickly powered up the controls, his fingers moving deftly over the familiar interface. Mithil secured herself in the seat next to him, her expression serious. "Can you fly this?" "Of course," Alex replied, though he felt the pressure mounting as the soldiers closed in. He glanced out the cockpit window, watching them rush toward their position. Come on," he muttered, pressing buttons and initiating pre-flight checks. The engines rolled to life, vibrating beneath him. Suddenly, a blaster bolt struck the side of the shuttle, rattling the vessel and sending alarms blaring. "We need to go now," Mithil exclaimed, panic evident in her voice. "I'm trying," Alex shouted, his heart racing as he punched in the launch codes. "Just hold on." With one final input, the shuttle's engines surged with power, and the craft lifted off the ground. Alex could feel a force pressing him back into his seat as they broke free from the dock. Go," Mithil urged, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. "We have to get out of here." With a deft maneuver, Alex piloted the shuttle toward the opening of the maintenance bay. Just as they reached the exit, a group of core soldiers fired at them, but Alex expertly angled the ship, dodging the incoming blasts. "Hang on," he shouted, accelerating as they burst out of the docking bay and into the vastness of space. As they broke free of the station's gravitational pull, Alex let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "We did it," he said, glancing over at Mithil, who looked both relieved and exhilarated. "Yes, we did," she replied, a smile breaking across her face. "I can't believe we made it out." But the celebration was short-lived as Alex quickly plotted their course. "We need to keep moving. They'll send ships after us, and we can't let them catch up." "Where do we go?" Mithil asked, her expression shifting to concern. "Let's head to the outer rim," Alex suggested, his mind racing with possibilities. "There are several hidden outposts where we can lay low for a while until we figure out our next move." Mithil nodded, her confidence returning. "I trust you, Alex. Whatever happens next, I know we'll get through this together." As they soared through the stars, leaving the chaos of Terra 1 space station behind, Alex couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious, but he also knew that their journey was far from over. With Mithil by his side, he was determined to uncover the truth behind her past, protect her from those who sought to reclaim her, and fight against the forces that threatened their very existence. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, forging a path through the darkness and into the light. Shadows of the past. As the shuttle cruised through the vast expanse of space, the comforting hum of the engines filled the cockpit, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. Alex's fingers danced over the controls, adjusting their course toward the outer rim while casting occasional glances at Mithil, who was staring out at the stars, her expression contemplative. "We did it," he said, trying to break the silence that hung between them. "We really made it out." Mithil turned to him, her violet eyes shimmering with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "Yes, but for how long? They will be looking for us, and I can't help but feel that this is only the beginning." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words. The danger was far from over, and as they ventured deeper into uncharted territory, the reality of their situation settled heavily upon him. "We'll need to stay vigilant and keep a low profile. If they have ships out searching for us, we can't afford to be careless." "Do you have any contacts in the outer rim?" Mithil asked, shifting in her seat as she adjusted the controls to monitor their surroundings. "People who could help us?" "I might know a few," Alex replied, recalling the various outposts and stations he had frequented during his days as a bounty hunter. "There's a trading post called Naxos Prime. It's remote, and the locals are often willing to turn a blind eye to any unconventional visitors." Mithil's brow furrowed. "What if they're not friendly?" "Then we'll have to be prepared to negotiate," he said with a faint smile. "Or run. It's worked for me before." With the coordinates for Naxos Prime set, Alex focused on navigating the shuttle. The ship glided smoothly through the cosmos, stars streaking by in a beautiful display. Despite the danger that loomed ahead, a sense of peace began to envelop him, bolstered by the knowledge that they were now free, at least for the moment. Mithil turned her attention back to the controls, her curiosity piqued. "How do you know so much about flying? I thought you were a technician." "There's more to me than meets the eye," he replied, the shadows of his past flickering in his mind. "I picked up a few skills along the way. You learn a lot when you've got a reputation to uphold." Mithil studied him, her gaze penetrating. "I can tell you've had a complicated life. You've seen things, haven't you?" Alex hesitated, weighing whether to share his past. The memories were painful, a tapestry of loss and regret. But as he looked at Mithil, her resilience, her strength, he felt compelled to open up. "I've done things I'm not proud of," he admitted. "I was a bounty hunter, tracking down targets across the galaxy. It was a rough existence, and it cost me dearly." "What do you mean?" Mithil asked gently, her curiosity tempered with compassion. Alex took a deep breath, the weight of his memories pressing down on him. "I lost people, friends, allies, even family. I was so focused on the hunt, on proving myself, that I didn't realize the toll it was taking on my life. It wasn't until it was too late that I understood the price of my choices." Mithil's expression softened, empathy radiating from her. "We all have our burdens to bear. I understand more than you know. My past is filled with pain too. Losing my father changed everything for me." Alex looked at her, surprised by the depth of her words. "What happened?" Mithil hesitated, her gaze drifting back to the stars. "My father was a leader, a good man who wanted peace for our people, but he was betrayed by those he trusted, and in the end, he was murdered. I had to flee to escape the same fate. The core empire didn't just want him, they wanted me too." A chill ran down Alex's spine. "That's why they're after you. You're not just a target, you're a key player in a much larger game." "Yes," Mithil replied, her voice trembling slightly. "But I'm not a pawn. I refuse to be used again. If I can find a way to reclaim my father's legacy and restore peace, I will." Her determination ignited something within Alex. He realized that they shared a common goal, a desire to rise above their pasts and forge a better future. "We'll figure it out together," he promised, feeling a sense of purpose blossoming between them. As they continued their journey, the vastness of space enveloped them, and Alex felt a renewed sense of hope. They were both survivors, and together, they could become something greater. After several hours, the shimmering blue and green orb of Naxos Prime came into view, a planet surrounded by a bustling array of ships coming and going. "There it is," Alex said, pointing to the planet as they approached. "Home to traders, smugglers, and everything in between. If anyone knows how to help us, it'll be here." Mithil leaned closer to the window, eyes wide with awe. "It's beautiful," she breathed, the worry momentarily forgotten. "I never imagined I'd see a place like this." "Just wait until we land," Alex said with a grin. "It's a hive of activity. You'll get to see how the other half lives, the ones who don't have a care in the galaxy." As they descended through the atmosphere, the landscape below revealed sprawling markets, towering spires, and bustling docks filled with ships from across the galaxy. Alex expertly maneuvered the shuttle toward a smaller landing pad on the outskirts of the trading hub, where a crowd of merchants and travelers milled about. "Stay sharp," he warned as they landed, the shuttle settling onto the platform with a soft thud. "We don't know who might be watching us." Mithil nodded, her expression serious as they prepared to disembark. "What's the plan once we're down?" "We'll head into the market, blend in with the crowd," Alex replied, scanning their surroundings. "I'll introduce you to a contact named Jax. He's got connections and might know how to help us with your situation." With a deep breath, Alex opened the shuttle's hatch, and the sounds of Naxos Prime flooded in, voices mingling with the distant clang of metal and the hum of activity. He stepped out first, followed closely by Mithil, who took in her new surroundings with wide eyes. The marketplace was alive with colors, sounds, and scents. Vendors shouted their wares, showcasing everything from exotic fruits to advanced technology. The air was thick with the aroma of spices and fried food, and the atmosphere buzzed with energy. "Stick close to me," Alex instructed, keeping his voice low as they made their way through the throng of people. "We need to keep a low profile." They navigated through the market, Alex's instincts alert for any signs of trouble. Mithil moved beside him, her presence both a comfort and a reminder of the stakes involved. Every passerby could potentially be an ally or an enemy. As they approached a dimly lit cantina at the edge of the market, Alex spotted Jax lounging at a corner table, a rugged figure with a scruffy beard and a twinkle of mischief in his eyes. He was a man who knew how to navigate the underbelly of the galaxy, and Alex hoped he would be willing to help. "Jax," Alex called out, waving as they approached. Jax looked up, a sleek grin spreading across his face. Well, if it isn't the infamous Zorak. What brings you to my humble establishment?" "Cut the pleasantries, Jax. I need your help," Alex replied, glancing around to ensure no one was listening too closely. "Always straight to the point, I see," Jax said, leaning back in his chair. "What kind of trouble are you in this time?" "I'm not the one in trouble," Alex said, gesturing to Mithil. "She is. The core empire is after her, and we need to lay low until we can figure out our next move." Jax's demeanor shifted, the playful glint in his eyes replaced by a serious expression. "The core? That's no small matter. They have a long reach. You two need to be careful." "I know," Alex said, feeling the weight of their situation pressing down on him. "But we can't just hide forever. We need information, resources, and a plan." Jax nodded, his gaze drifting to Mithil. "And who is she?" "This is Mithil, daughter of a political leader from Arcania," Alex explained. "She's not just any target. She has something they want, something that could shift the balance of power." Jax leaned forward, intrigue evident in his eyes. "Interesting. If what you say is true, then we need to keep her safe and find a way to turn the tables on the core." "What do you have in mind?" Mithil asked, her expression determined. "I have a few contacts who may know something about the core's movements," Jax replied. But we'll have to tread carefully. If they're already looking for you, they'll be monitoring the usual channels. Alex nodded, feeling the urgency of the situation. What do we need to do? First, we need to lay low here, Jax said. I can set you up with a safe house just outside the market. It's discreet and well hidden. From there, I'll reach out to my contacts and see what information I can gather. Mythil looked relieved. Thank you, Jax. I appreciate your help. Don't mention it, Jax replied with a wink. Just keep your heads down and stay out of sight. The last thing we need is a firefight in the middle of the market. As they made their way out of the cantina, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had allies, and for the first time since their journey began, there was a glimmer of hope. But as they navigated through the crowded market, the shadows of their pasts loomed large, a constant reminder of the dangers they faced. They reached the safe house, a modest dwelling tucked away in an alley just outside the bustling marketplace. The door creaked as they entered, revealing a small but cozy interior filled with the scent of old wood and faint spices. This will do, Alex said, surveying the room. It was a far cry from luxury, but it would provide the sanctuary they needed for the time being. Mythil stepped inside, taking in her surroundings. It's quaint. Think of it as a hideout, Alex replied, a smile creeping onto his face. We'll be safe here while we plan our next move. They settled into the safe house, the tension of the day slowly easing as they made themselves comfortable. Alex leaned against the wall, arms crossed, contemplating their situation. What's the plan now? Mythil asked, her voice breaking the silence. How do we deal with the core? We wait for Jax to gather information, Alex replied. But we also need to prepare for the possibility of them finding us here. We should come up with a backup plan, just in case. Mythil nodded, her expression serious. I won't let them take me again. I've lost too much already. We'll fight, Alex said firmly, his determination unwavering. But first, we need to outsmart them. We need to learn their movements and anticipate their next move. Hours passed as they strategized, mapping out potential scenarios and discussing their options. The weight of their pasts lingered in the air, but together, they forged a bond strengthened by shared purpose and determination. As night fell, the distant sounds of the marketplace faded into a soothing silence. Alex and Mythil sat together, their minds racing with thoughts of the challenges ahead. Mythil, Alex began, his voice steady. I know this is all overwhelming, but I need you to trust me. We're in this together, and I won't let anything happen to you. I trust you, Alex, she replied, sincerity in her eyes. You've already risked so much for me. I won't forget that. With a sense of camaraderie blossoming between them, they settled into a watchful silence, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but they would face it together, two unlikely allies against the shadows of their pasts, united by a common goal. As they prepared for the dawn of a new day, they knew that the road ahead would be anything but easy. But with each passing moment, they grew stronger, more resolute in their determination to reclaim their lives from the darkness that sought to consume them.